Thanks for joining us today. We are talking again with Dr. Hall on our series for the mindset gap. We're specifically getting into self-sabotage. I've heard it worded a number of different ways, but basically the gist is if you don't have the things in life that you want to have, it's likely because you need to be a different version of yourself. So we're going to talk about the psychology of the things that can get in the way, to the point where you could almost call one of your biggest enemies, your biggest opponents, is yourself. So we're going to dig into obviously what self-sabotage, is, how it manifests itself, and how to kind of dig into the issues surrounding it. We've had our initial series and then the production ceiling topic. So we've delved into this a little bit at a high level, but now we're going to get into some very specific. So I'm super excited to bring in Dr. Hall. Dr. Hall is a business psychologist, an executive coach, a multi-time author, and a public speaker. And as I always say, kind of one of my favorite aspects is how to get into the practical application of working through these things in your career, in your business, in your life, kind of the day-to-day execution of these things that we bring to light. How you doing today, Dr. Hall?
Well, I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited on this one because I find it intriguing. We've talked a little bit about our, ourselves being our biggest opponent, our biggest enemy,
Mhm.
the things that hold us back the most. But when you really dig into the specifics, it's I don't know about jarring, but it's a little, unsettling to think we can try to undo a lot of the things we aspire to do.
Yeah, there was an old comic strip called Pogo, and there's an important cell in it where the main character Pogo says, "We have met the enemy, and he is us."
Powerful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we are our own worst enemies.
Yeah. And I'm super curious to get into why we are and then the people that aren't for some reason and kind of the nuances. So I think
Sure.
this will be a really great episode. But before we do that, let's dig in a little bit into introducing myself. I'm the associate broker and team lead here at My Home Connection, also known as MHC Realty. Our sponsor for today is the perfect real estate business. It's obviously aspirational. We've spent, many years, decades between Dr. Hall and myself um, in bringing to you the psychology of real estate success. Obviously, there's a lot of things that come to us in the way of hurdles and things that we need, tools and resources. So we want to bring all that to the table, but certainly get the mindset right first and foremost. So we always encourage you to reach out, talk to us via our no obligation consultation, and see what we can do to help. But uh, bringing Dr. Hall back in, what's your thought on what I mentioned at the beginning here, introducing the episode of, you know, you have the life you have because you've done the things you've done. And most of us want more out of life. I don't know about all, but a
So some
huge,
of us do. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And those are probably the listeners that are on here today. They're just kind of like, if they're listening to this, they feel like they're falling short of the things either that they want or that they want to do or the people they want to do it with. Kind of what's your thought on that? I'm trying to come up with a specific question, and maybe it's first of all, what is the percentage of people that are content versus the percentage of people that are always kind of wanting more?
Yeah, I don't know the exact percentage, but I'd say the top 10 or 20% are always wanting more.
Okay.
And and there are lots of people who are very content or complacent. Those are two, in my mind, two different things. But much of the rest of society is either content or complacent.
Yeah. Kind of it feels the same depending on who they are. So if 80, 90% are kind of always wanting more, and I know
10 or
these are
10 or
tough
twenty
numbers.
percent always wanting more.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah. Uh, what's your thoughts on kind of this series? The uh, are getting in our own way of those 10 or 20%. Do you think are finding these issues that are getting in their way. Do you think it's a good percentage, or do you think it's a relative?
I'd in one way or another, it's everybody.
Oh,
Because
okay.
what we're describing, and again, it's one way or another, and it's either a slight impediment or a major impediment. But I'll give you an example. When we're kids, we grow at a certain rate, and then we hit puberty and we grow a lot faster. And um, when I hit that, my feet grew really, really big,
Mm,
really, really fast,
interesting.
and I was constantly stubbing my toe. Well, why is that?
Didn't know where your feet ended.
Well, I didn't know where my feet were because they were a lot bigger than they used to be, and my brain had not caught up yet with the size of my feet and how I had to manage my gait.
Interesting.
So 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 essentially, I had to relearn a new somatosensory process. I needed to proprioception. Okay,
Okay.
I needed to learn where my body was in space differently. Well, that took some time. Well, everybody who makes changes in their life, their their brain and their body have to catch up, and success is one example of that having to catch up. And some people it they figure it out pretty quickly, and other people can't figure it out. They just keep stubbing their toes.
Okay, so here's where I was going with that is if folks are listening, and they're probably in the 10 to 20%, and we're just roughly estimating that, a huge percentage of them are going to struggle with these issues, and they should listen closely because there's a high degree of likelihood, certainly as it relates to this series, that they're going to come across some issue that they may or may not ever be able to overcome. And a little bit of a spoiler to the end of the topic is because most of it's based upon blind spots.
Yes, yes, and then there's probably a percentage of the other 80 or 90% of the other people who, if they listen to this, they may actually say, "Huh, maybe I'm stuck," and maybe I can figure out a way around it, rather than just accepting this is my lot in life. So perhaps we can help those people as well.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. If you're not quite there yet and you get into this and then you come across something and you're like, "Oh, that sounds familiar per that conversation. Let me go entertain it." Some are in the throes, taking blows and go, "Hey, something's not working. Why not? Maybe it's me and maybe I should look into it." Is that kind of what I'm hearing is there's people.
Yeah, I guess we all come up with obstacles. And at one point in my career, I was a consultant at a university, and I was the representative between the Counseling and Consultation Center and Disabled Student Services. And it was really interesting to me that um, people in wheelchairs had two very different approaches to curbs. It's the same
Okay.
curb, it's
Yeah.
the same wheelchair,
Yeah.
but one person would, I guess I just can't do this. And then I met some people. I mean, they just popped the curb with their wheelchair. And I met people who could go up some stairs in their wheelchairs. I was like, dang.
Time to have
Okay,
fun.
so we're all going to come up with hurdles. In metaphorically, we're all in wheelchairs. We all have impediments. The question is, are we going to learn how to
Mm.
manage those impediments? Or do we say, well, I'm stuck. I can't do this.
Yeah. How am I gonna have an awareness of how I'm gonna approach it? And if I have an unhealthy approach to it naturally, how am I going to adjust that? How do I have fun jumping over the curb instead of feeling like it's an insurmountable task?
An insurmountable thing. And again, the difference was not the wheelchair, it was not the disability, it was the mindset of the person.
Yeah.
And the the person in the wheelchair with agency figured out, okay, I can figure this out. This is figure outable. And they they were still disabled, but they had a lot more functionality. They had a lot better lives than the people. Oh, I can't do it. And the same thing is when we achieve success. We're going to have to learn things. We're going to hit hurdles, and if we're complacent, we'll just say, "Well, I guess this,
That's
like
the way it
what
is.
what can I do? Well, I guess I'm
Yeah.
stuck."
Yeah.
Or take a different approach.
Yeah. Ah, I love it. I think that's a great introduction. I know it got a little long winded, but I was kind of curious. of who in our audience needed to hear this, who in the general public. High degree of likelihood if you're our audience, this is of interest and applicable. Uh, well, of interest, and then it's mostly applicable to everybody. So um, let's chat about this. Why do I self destruct when things finally go well? And I wish I could remember exactly how it was said, but it was kind of that we don't fall apart uh, after a breakthrough and we find our weaknesses, but we can fall apart when there's a potential breakthrough.
Yeah,
Would-
because the potential breakthrough is requiring you to do different things, think different ways, behave different ways, and your anticipation of what's next can be um, frightening, or at minimum confusing. And when you have that uncertainty, that creates anxiety.
Hmm. See, I would have thought you get to a level and then you begin to fall apart because you didn't rise to the occasion. You didn't put systems in, you didn't put best practices in. But what we're talking about this is a precursor to that. It's a shift in identity and it's the tools, skills, resources you need for that now new identity. Am I saying that
Yeah,
fair?
I mean, if you go into it and say, well, I can't be a millionaire because my dad was a coal miner, and coal miners' kids just don't become millionaires. Well, when you hit 900,999, maybe you blow 100,000, so you don't have to see what it's like, because it's going to require you to change. You have to change some of your expectations about the world. Some of your presuppositions just didn't turn out to be true. And that's going to require a lot more mental effort on your part.
Mm,
So rather than
interesting.
engage in the mental effort of the changed life, you're going to sabotage to keep yourself in the old expectations, the old presuppositions.
Okay, so let's talk about some of that behavior that we might see manifesting itself. That you go, oh, guess what I'm probably doing? I'm not allowing myself to level up because I am
Mm-hmm.
having anxiety. I'm fearful of, whatever what people think of me with this now new identity or with this new found success. Like what what did most people typically do that you'd go, oh, they're getting hung up?
Yeah, I procrastination is a real enemy at this point.
Okay.
But I think, and I'm not sure what the science is on this. This is from my own personal observation, so somebody can disagree with me if they want. But my observation is that if you procrastinate at the beginning of an endeavor, it's because you fear failure. Well, I'm not even going to start because if I
Mm,
do and I fail, and people make fun of me, and this is just prove what a loser I am, so I'm not even going to try.
mm,
So procrastination at the beginning is that.
okay.
Procrastination in the middle is you've got so many things going on, you're overwhelmed.
Okay.
And the analogy I use is, in any big process, it's like baking a cake.
Okay.
So before you start baking the cake, the kitchen is clean and you have no cake. In the middle of the process, the kitchen is a disaster and you have no cake.
Right. Okay.
And it's overwhelming. And at the end, the kitchen is clean and you have a cake. So we all know what this is like. When you bake a cake, the kitchen is a disaster for a while. Well, in the middle, the disaster can get so big that you get overwhelmed and you start putting off things. Okay? That's in the middle of the baking of the cake. The
Gotcha.
kitchen is a disaster. You still have no cake.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I see people procrastinate in the middle because they're just overwhelmed. But as it relates to what we're talking about here, procrastination at the end is you're whisper close
Okay.
to a breakthrough in success. But if you do, you have to change everything. So you start
Yeah.
procrastinating or self
Yeah.
sabotaging,
Not making decisions or coming up
putting it
with
off.
reasons.
Well, if I let's make sure it's perfect. I mean, which is a point we'll get to in a minute. But all of those are self sabotage as it relates to fear of success. What will I have to change if I become successful? Will my friends still like me? Will my family still interact with me? Will I have to eat a lot of crow because I said a lot of bad things about people who are now I'm part of that.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Rich people
so
suck. They're all evil. They're all greedy. Oh crap! Now I'm a
yeah,
rich person.
now I'm a rich person by my previous definition. So some people, they just change their definition.
Oh,
Oh, well, because of inflation, that's not really rich
yeah,
anymore.
millionaires aren't rich anymore. Just
Yeah,
billionaires.
they're just
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I know a guy who's a multimillionaire, and he thinks he's put upon by the upper class.
Oh,
And his
really?
best friend says, "Do you know you are the upper class?
Right.
You're in the top, you're in the top 3%." No, I'm not. Yes, you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Denial's not just a river, honey.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Well, let's so I think we already kind of alluded to our next one. No, okay, it must be a little later on. But so we've talked about why we could do it, what are the behaviors that might manifest themselves. And then you and I've talked a little bit about this bouncing it back and forth. And I think what I don't know about concluded, but theorized, or you even state is it a uh, physiological issue or a psychological issue? Was that the contrast or the
Well, yeah, you've got the statement here: is self-sabotage a nervous system problem or a mindset problem? And this is essentially a false dichotomy. And this is the point I try to make in my book DIY Brain, is that for since um, Descartes, he was a philosopher named Rene Descartes, and he believed that the mind and the body were separate entities. And it created this philosophy in Western society of what's called mind-body dualism,
mm,
that the mind is separate from the body. And this belief persists. It wasn't an
wow,
ancient belief. It wasn't a Near Eastern belief. It wasn't an Eastern belief. It is fully a product of the Enlightenment.
wow,
We believe that our mind and our body are separate. So early in my training, they said, is it organic or is it functional? And what that meant is it organic? Is this of the body,
okay,
or is it psychological? And so we
okay,
we talk about that today. It's like, well, I've got a chemical depression, which is again that false dichotomy. Every depression has chemicals involved,
hmm,
and it has psychology involved.
yeah.
And so what you're saying is one is the chicken and one is the egg, and when in fact they're both eggs
I
or they're
have the
both
chemicals
chickens.
because my psychology initiated the chemicals.
Right. So what we found in the neuroscience revolution is, yes, there are some things. And as I look down my triage, I look at, okay, first look at biology, then look at chemistry, then look at psychology.
Mm,
But what I know about psychology is a changed mindset will change the physiology, and the changed physiology will change the mindset.
mm,
It's really just a matter of which is the avenue for modification that you want to take, or the most efficacious way that you want to make that modification. So there is a kind of defeatism by saying, oh, it's just organic, it's just
mm.
I've got a
Can't do anything about it.
disordered, I've got a dysregulated nervous system, so I can't do anything about it. Well, yeah, you can. You can do a lot of things about consciously and through instituting habits, re-regulate your nervous system. Some of it nutritional, some of it sleep, some of it lifestyle, but you can change those things.
Hmm.
So when people love to say, well, there was a guy, um, his intervention for obsessive compulsive disorder is, this isn't my psychology. This is just my brain is broken. Oh my gosh,
Wow.
I, that's such a self-defeating
Wow.
cognition.
Yeah.
If I can't do this because my brain is broken, my brain is miswired, well, I guess I'm screwed.
Yeah. I'm never going to try.
Right. But what the neuroscience revolution has taught us is that by changing patterns of thinking, by changing patterns of diet, by changing lots of other things, outside of medicine can actually and does actually change the biochemistry and at a microscopic level change the biology.
Eh, Oh, but I'm interrupting a thought, am I?
Well, let me give you an example. People have strokes, and what happens in a stroke is it destroys brain tissue,
Okay.
and in some cases that brain tissue never recovers.
Okay.
But what we know is that with practice and rehearsal, and this happens more with children, the brain will reroute and you can learn that stuff in a different area of the brain that was damaged
Ah,
if you'll train yourself to do
yeah.
it.
But if you think it's impossible, you're never going to do that.
Why would you try?
Right.
And so the power here is that you can, through practice and rehearsal, with help from others, rewire your brain in such a way that you can overcome very, very debilitating things.
Yeah, interesting. Well, where I was going with that, and I think you alluded to it in our last episode, it might have been the first one, but it's neither here nor there. But I think you said if you go the direction of biology, chemistry, psychology, that could be kind of the more easy route to go rather than the inverse of
Well,
that.
it's the route to start looking at problems.
Okay.
Um, it's a triage that's useful.
Okay.
What I'm talking about is that psychology can change chemistry, can change biology. But if you say, well, he's got an anger management problem, that's psychology, but he's drunk all the time, well, that's chemistry.
Oh,
Okay.
that's a good example. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so you eliminate the boozing and you eliminate the fights.
Okay, so you
Okay.
just taking variables out, kind of like cutting back to a very strict diet. Like I don't know what's making me feel better. I doubt it's the carnivore diet. Well, it might be, but there's a whole lot of things I stripped out that could have caused me to feel better.
Right. So you look at those variables. Um, but that doesn't take away the agency that even if a person is a drunk, they still they still have some degree of self-control.
Mm,
So
yeah.
the lie we tell ourselves is, well, I lost my temper. Would you leave it in the car? You know, we make decisions to become angry. When we ingest substances, it impairs our judgment, but we still made the decision.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't just I mean, the law is never going to say, "Oh, never mind. You didn't really make that decision because you were inebriated." That's not going to fly.
Then we'd all drive drunk, wouldn't we? If we got a free pass.
Yeah. Yeah, we could just chalk it up to the alcohol. Yeah, interesting. So this one, we talked about a little bit before the episode, and I don't know if this is getting into kind of the whole, Sigmund Freud's thing, because my perception is most of that was that we are, kind of who we are today by virtue and to some degree victims of who we grew up, how we grew up and how do you overcome that? And I don't know if I'm fair to say and all that, but what's your thoughts on the effect of, childhood upbringing and adult decisions?
It of course has an influence, and some of it outside of our conscious awareness. Now that doesn't make it the Freudian unconscious. That just makes it stuff that we don't ever think about. Um, the, and again, that's our brain being efficient. We don't we don't give the rationale for everything that we've learned by habit, and so many of the things that we learn by habit we learn in childhood. This is where many of our habits get started, and so the relationship between childhood experience and adult professional behavior, sure, of course, there's a relationship. Um, in my understanding of the theory of personality, there are several factors that yield a person's adult personality. One is the intrauterine environment. Okay.
Okay.
One is epigenetics.
Hmm.
One is genetics. So those are three things that happen right before you're born. So you got genetics, you've got epigenetics, then you've got the intrauterine environment,
Okay.
all of which affect um, uh, what we would call the temperament, which is the germ of a person's um, uh, personality. The
Mm-hmm.
next is the ingestion of bacteria, which happens in childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
That kids get bacteria when they're born, and that provides what happens in the gut. And there's a relationship between the gut and the brain. We haven't even got the kid born yet, and we've got all these variables.
Right,
Then
right.
we've got what happens after birth
Uh-huh.
in terms of childhood environment, and all of those things shape the temperament into the adult personality. And so it's important for us to look at all of those variables, but they all affect, but they're not destiny. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So when a lioness kills one of her cubs, we say it's nature. When a woman kills one of her children, we say it's horrific. Okay, why? Because we believe that we have agency beyond the animals.
Mm.
And so we believe there's something more to us in terms of our ability to control ourselves and our ability to self-regulate. That's just that we think we're different.
Yeah,
And I think we are. I
yeah.
think that's a legitimate thing.
So the whole nature versus nurture thing is a highly complex conversation, and requires a lot of analysis into each kind of one of those. Obviously, first, probably and foremost, be the ones that you could actually change, right? I mean, before you were born, you can't go back. I mean, you could kind of analyze it, like you said. Was mom stressed? Was she sick? Was what she eat?
Yeah. So I mean, here we are. I mean, we're at 4 or 5 variables before the kid is
Oh,
born.
yes, yes, uh-huh.
So that's nature. Nurture is everything after. There's plenty there. So we've got so many variables that it's tough to choose which one it is. But what we know is that we all have the ability to self-regulate.
Mm,
And it's hard, but the belief that we don't have the ability to self-regulate would mean that we're animals. And even animals self-regulate.
yeah. Yeah, I would. It sounds to me like it's super dangerous to tell people they just are who they are, and it's futile to really put too much effort and thought and energy into becoming different. I mean, there's so much evidence that even to the point you've discussed, epigenetics can be changed. So it's not like some of that's
Yes.
fixed, but some of it's certainly not fixed.
No, it's the more we learn, especially about epigenetics, is no, it's not fixed. It's difficult, but it's not overcomable.
Yeah, yeah. Like fasting these days has become more and more of a topic. From what I understand, autophagy is only about a decade of a known thing. I'm hearing that we're even finding that we can create new stem cells and stuff like that. But
Sure.
anyway, I went the fasting route to say you can reset your gut biome after a period of time of fasting. So for people that say, that second brain and what drives you, there's people that are fasting to kind of reset that whole thing, and then reintroducing a whole new diet and different things into their gut biome to.
Yeah, and people are actually taking different um, gut biota in different ways to repopulate their gut. So, and the connection between gut health and gut biota and temperament personality is pretty well documented at this point. It's not
Mm,
fully understood, but it's pretty well documented. There's something there.
yeah, enough there that you should pay really close
You
attention
should
to
you
it.
should pay attention to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the drive is incredible. I don't know. Hopefully it's not too long of a story, but I got I don't know about hooked on, but these Sundays, uh, and man, I had enough of these Sundays that my I don't know any better way to describe it than my second brain like made me go to the Sunday to the restaurant to get the
You mean
Sunday.
the
Like,
ice cream Sundays, not
yeah,
like
yeah.
Sunday day of the
Sorry,
week, but
yes,
ice cream
ice cream
Sundays.
Sunday.
Okay.
It was an urge that I could not believe. I mean, I was like, I got to get in my car and go over there, and it was a really hard battle to fight, and because I was paying really close attention to why I felt this urge to go get it. And then after, I had fasted for a bit and I reset, I didn't think about it anymore. I like,
Right.
didn't bother
Right.
me one bit.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know if that's a good, story or analogy.
Well, I think it's a great analogy to our point, which is: are we victims to our childhood experience? Can be if you want, or you can do what you can with the tools that you have to improve your life right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not telling people, every problem is overcomable. Just you have the right mental attitude. That's a false understanding of what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can make improvements.
That's
And if
powerful.
you and if you don't believe you can make improvements, then you won't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I don't want anybody to think that I'm selling that, the power of positive thinking, you can change everything, and you can grow a third arm. I mean, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking
Right.
about how to improve yourself.
Yeah. Well, you're trying to, what I'm hearing is you're creating hope that there, in a lot of cases, there's hope that this stuff can change. And it just takes some, thinking, awareness, research, behavior modification in the way of better improved habits that have a more favorable lifestyle outcome.
Yes, and here's the hard news. All of that is difficult, which gets to our point. Why don't people make the changes? Because it's so
Mm,
darn hard.
yeah. Yeah.
And success is so darn hard.
Yeah.
The people I know who are successful, they can't live the same way they used to. Otherwise, they can't sustain the new level. And
Yeah.
some people don't want to do that much work,
Right.
or they don't want to learn the new habits so that the new level becomes easy again. They're okay.
Yeah, well, it kind of goes back to how I kind of opened the episode was that, if you don't have the life and the things in life or the career in life that you wanted, then you have to become a different version of yourself. Isn't that kind of what we're talking about here? And if you have no interest in becoming a better version, then you're just going to have to be content or complacent. And I'd highly recommend you figure out which is which and which one's unhealthy. And uh, you know,
I
but
would say complacency is unhealthy. Let me define my
yep.
terms. Contentment is I enjoy the process that I'm doing. I am disconnected to the outcome. So I'm going to do this thing. And if I make money or I get acclaim or whatever, I like doing this thing. That's contentment. That's
Hmm.
healthy.
Yep.
Now, we don't always have control over our outcomes, but we do have control over our process. That's
Hmm.
contentment.
Yeah.
Complacency is, it's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I just don't want to work. I just don't want to work that hard.
right.
And so I think there's some people who are content and they've reached a level and they like doing what they're doing, and that's great. Okay, they're productive contributors of society, and they have achieved their potential, and they're where they want to be. Great. But then there's some people who are discontent. They enjoy the process, but they still like getting more. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of person. Great. Good
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah. That's definitely a thought that we'd recommend you putting into. Are you complacent or content? Because they're drastic. I mean, they sound somewhat close, and the symptoms, the outcome look a little the same, but it's a worthwhile effort.
It's a worthwhile effort. I mean, some people, let's say they love music and they've taken lessons and they've worked to improve their voice, but for one reason or another, they've just never become Taylor Swift. Okay, but they love music, and so they keep singing,
Yeah.
and they've got a really nice voice and a lot of the great things, but they don't have $1 billion like
They're
Taylor
content.
does. So they're content.
Yeah.
Other people are like, oh, I got to figure out that little special secret sauce, so I'm going to keep pushing. Other people, they can't sing, they don't have talent, and they don't want to get any better. That's complacent.
Right. Interesting. Well, I think this might dovetail into the next conversation piece, and that is the idea of perfectionism, or what's kind of the saying? Perfectionism is the enemy of good, or the enemy of great. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is that kind of straddling that complacent versus
yeah.
content?
It is that you my the way I say it is better a completed B than an undone A. And
Mm,
so people are always trying to get the best outcome, but they've got to do just a little bit more to make it perfect. Hey, put it out into the world,
yes.
okay? And so let's use my books as an example. I proofread the books. I had other people proofread the books. I had 3 or 4 different editors proofread the books. I had copy editors proofread the books. I get the book, somebody first month, there's a typo on page whatever. It's like,
You've mentioned this to me before. Like, really?
oh my
It's
gosh,
never going to be perfect.
it's never going to be perfect. So we
Yeah.
made a change in the next printing. But if we had waited until we got that right, we would have never put it out, because
Yeah.
there might be a typo. And I guarantee you somebody is going to send me an email. I found another typo. Yes, I got it. Okay.
Yeah. That's a great story because I think that kind of just hits it on the head. Is you can never put it out there and try to get perfect, and it's never out there.
It's not going to happen. Um, the only thing that's perfect is God. The rest of us are just trying to get better.
Yeah. 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 So reiterate. Take Make a plan. Uh, we like to think make a plan that is in a positive direction in a number of
Yeah.
different ways, meaning, what you're passionate about, where you find flow, what drives you, where you find your purpose, do all that. But then start going in that direction and just keep, I mean, I hate to say falling forward, but just, do some stuff and then refine it and then do some more stuff. Is that
You know,
too
I,
crude?
I would say one of the best books of his, John Maxwell. He's a very prolific leadership author, and I think one of the best books he wrote is a book called Failing Forward.
Mm,
And it's just story after story of people who failed and how they progressively got better. And it's such an inspiration. Another is a book by Marie Forleo. And I quoted the title of the book called Everything is Figure Outable. And
mm,
I just love her
yeah.
approach that
Yeah.
you can figure everything out. It's not going to be perfect, but you can fix it as you go along.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, let's get into the actual meat here. I like to
What
talk
have we been
about.
doing up till now, Jared? I thought this
Well,
was pretty good
when I say
stuff.
meat, I'm talking about like the listener. Like, okay, I heard a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
and now how am I going to do it?
How do we bring it home? How do we
Y-
take it home?
Yeah, maybe that's a better way to put it. How do we bring it home? And I think it goes back to what we just alluded to earlier. Is most of the time it's blind spots, and you've mentioned to me before, but even more eloquently before this episode started, about how people can apply this to their life. And because it's a blind spot, you just have to know it's not something you're going to do other than go finding people to tell you this. You can't like sit in a
Right.
room
Okay.
probably.
So everybody but me has seen this part of my body. Okay. Everybody has seen it but me. Everybody knows I don't have very much hair back there. I mean, I could lie to myself,
Hmm.
but I have to trust what other people tell me, and what the three-way mirror in the dressing room tells me
Uh-huh.
is that I got a bald spot.
Yeah.
Okay? I can't see that. So I have to trust. I mean, I can see this, but I can't see this. So
Right.
I got to trust that other people are telling me the truth. And we all have those spots. We all have parts of ourselves that we can't see. And somebody tells us. If we're open to correction, if we're teachable, we can go, oh, I didn't realize that. Now, it's important that they be trustworthy people that you think are telling you the truth, but we all have blind spots. And so we need other people to help us see those blind spots.
Mm. And
And until you bring it into conscious awareness, you can't change it. You can't make any change on something unless you know it exists.
mm. So obviously we've talked about the coaching, the mentoring, the consulting, which are all different facets of helping people, improve, get better,
Sure,
become
sure.
more successful. But and we'd love to do that, right? I mean, that's what we do. You on the psychology side, myself on the real estate side, um, and we'd love to help. And certainly, that no obligation consultation, that conversation will help do that. But what if folks want to start leaning into finding other resources? Kind of who could they go to
I,
get that?
I think the first thing you need to think about is this a person I trust?
Okay.
And is this a person with whom I have good chemistry? If
Okay.
we look at the research in psychotherapy and coaching and all that stuff, the most effective ones are ones that have a good relationship. They click with the person who's hired them.
Okay.
And you don't need a professional to do that. If you have somebody in your life who doesn't have an advanced degree, but is somebody that you click with, you trust them, and they have some degree of knowledge or wisdom,
Okay.
that's the person you should use. Now, that could be a pastor, it could be a religious leader, it could be someone that you just trust. It could be a counselor, it could be a psychotherapist, it could be someone who's in the spiritual direction business. It doesn't really matter. It could be a really, really good friend. Um, I met a guy, and he decided he was going to start a psychotherapy practice in Spain. So he moved his family to Spain, sets up shop. 2 years later, comes back with his tail between his legs, didn't make any money. And I said, well, what happened? And he goes, well, people in Spain don't need psychotherapy. And I thought, like, they don't have problems? He goes, no, no. In their culture, they go out to dinner for like 3 hours every night with their friends, and they spend a ton of time talking. And he says they solve their problems at the dinner table with their
Wow.
friends. They
Wow.
don't need a professional. So
Wow.
if you're a Spaniard, rock on, keep it up.
Yeah.
What we may need to develop, or what everybody who's listening to this, I hope you'll learn, is, do you have that group of friends that you meet with regularly, that you talk candidly enough with, that they can help you resolve your problems? So psychotherapy is a professionalized way to get the same thing that some cultures create naturally.
Yeah. Well, and I love, I mean, yes, we'd love to help, but I also love the idea of the people that are going to keep you, because we've talked about kind of this road to success, and
Yep.
um we see people all the time that have reached fame, power, money, influence, and all that go off the rails. So these could be the same people that you would go back to later as you begin to level up in your career and your life, that hold you accountable for things that you now need, to keep you, out of the ditch. So this
Yeah.
could be the same people. They know you well enough to point out your blind spots. They probably love you enough or care enough about you to help you find those blind spots and overcome them. And now, once you have power, whatever that looks like, they're going to
Yeah.
say, "Hey, remember that weakness that you had before?"
Yeah. Yeah. You want enough truth tellers around you who are going to kick you in the tail when you get into trouble. And we see that with people who flame out, famous people who flame out in public. They're usually fairly isolated, which is why it's so important to keep trusted advisors, truth tellers around you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Dr. Hall, we've covered a ton of ground today, and I think it's
Hit
been
a lot of ground.
in very great detail. And I hope folks would feel really good about watching this whole episode and go, okay, I got some takeaways I can go do right now, some things to think about. What's the ceiling I could hit, or what's the ceiling I've been hitting, and now that I can find a way to kind of power through that, because that's really where my heart is not just talking about a lot of stuff, but helping people make some significant inroads, in their life. And to your point, specifically in expedition, because we just went through that course recently, and that's to reach your glory, right? The full expression of a thing or a person. And
Yep.
we want to see people leveling up and getting past these hurdles, these ceilings, these issues, and really finding their purpose and meaning in life. And it requires work, like you said. It's not just wishful thinking or listen to a bunch of
Mhm.
podcasts or whatever. It's doing the work with the people that can help you accomplish your goals.
Right. Right. I mean, it's hard. I mean, if it was easy, everybody would be successful.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. Well, so you've talked about ways they can do it, but let's talk about the resources you have and how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, if they want to get in touch with me, you can reach me best probably by my website, drrogerhall.com, drrogerhall.com. On it, you can find out about my books, uh, uh, my executive consultation work, public speaking, and my online courses.
There we go. Book's loaded.
They're the books. Yep.
Yeah. So the course we just referred to is Expedition. It's an amazing course to go through. Certainly, you can get the book, but if you want, kind of facilitated, guided experience through that, it references a lot of the information in staying happy, being productive, and DIY brain. And you said DIY leader brains forthcoming.
On its way. Keep working on chapters. Yep.
Gotcha. And you've got a quiz for folks?
Yeah, I've got a couple quizzes: the Worryometer and the Freak Out quiz, which will take you to the Freak Out course, which is a course on overcoming fear and anxiety and living a more purposeful life.
Excellent. Well, lots of stuff today, and lots of ways to get a hold of you and use your resources. So again, we really appreciate you coming on the episode and sharing your expertise and knowledge.
Well, Jared, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, we'll wish everybody a blessed one. Take care.